These my haters. Look at all my haters watching. The haters watching. The haters watching.
The security camera's unblinking eye captures it all. A white Lexus pulls up to Miami's colorful Wynwood walls at 1:30 a.m. 3 people exit, voices already raised. In seconds, fists fly as 2 men overpower a woman, forcing her to the ground. When she finally breaks free and walks away, no one could predict what happens next. Welcome to True Crime Malice, where we examine the razor-thin line between victim and perpetrator. If you're new here, hit subscribe now to join our community of critical thinkers who look beyond headlines. The woman in that footage is Key Vhani Hicks, stage name Key Vhani, a 27-year-old rapper on the rise in South Florida's competitive music scene. The man she shoots multiple times? Her own manager. "I'll kill you with one hit," he allegedly threatened, moments before the gunshots rang out across the art district. When does protecting yourself become something else entirely? When is deadly force justified? The surveillance footage shows violence from both sides, but the camera can't capture what was going through Key Vhani's mind in those critical seconds. Florida's controversial Stand Your Ground law sits at the center of this case, a law that allows deadly force without retreat when facing imminent danger. But did Key Vhani truly fear for her life? Or did rage take control after being humiliated and beaten? Tonight, we'll walk through every moment of this confrontation that transformed a promising music career into a murder case overnight. The evidence might surprise you, and the questions it raises about power, protection, and justice will follow you long after this video ends. Before the flash of gunfire in Wynwood, Key Vhani was making waves in Miami's music scene. Born Key Vhani Camilla Hicks, she represented the new generation of Florida rap raw talent, with authentic lyrics that resonated beyond club anthems. Her tracks gained traction on streaming platforms, each release building a loyal following that industry insiders couldn't ignore. "She had this hunger you don't see often," said one local producer who'd worked with her. "The kind of drive that separates those who make it from those who don't." Social media became Key Vhani's canvas. Instagram stories documenting late-night studio sessions, snippets of unreleased tracks, and genuine interactions with growing fans. Unlike manufactured artists, she built her brand authentically, one follower at a time. But success in music rarely comes without gatekeepers. Enter the manager, a figure whose name would later be splashed across headlines for entirely different reasons. Their professional relationship began with promise, connections, studio time, and opening slots at local venues. The typical music industry hierarchy was firmly established. Manager opening doors, artist delivering the talent. What few saw were the cracks forming beneath this professional veneer. The music industry's power dynamics create perfect conditions for tension. Artists depend on managers for opportunities, while managers expect control and compliance in return. This delicate balance works until it doesn't. Key Vhani's independence, the very quality that attracted fans, reportedly caused friction behind closed doors. Sources close to both parties described increasing disagreements over creative direction, financial splits, and career moves. The classic struggle between artistic vision and commercial pressure played out in recording studios and private meetings. While her public persona showcased confidence and ambition, those in her inner circle witnessed the mounting pressure. Every rising artist faces the crucible of industry expectations, but few journeys end in bloodshed on city streets. As her music reached new audiences, no one could have predicted that Key Vhani's most viewed content would ultimately be security footage from a fateful October night. Footage that would force viewers to question everything about self-defense, survival instincts, and the true cost of making it in music. October 9, 2023 began like countless nights before it in Miami's Wynwood district. Street artists added fresh murals to building facades, while tourists snapped photos beneath the glow of string lights. Bars and galleries pulsed with energy, as Monday night stretched toward early Tuesday morning. For Key Vhani, this ordinary night would become the dividing line between her past and future. At approximately 1:30 a.m., a white Lexus carrying 3 people, Key Vhani, her manager, and their driver, pulled up near Wynwood Walls at 2520 Northwest 2nd Avenue. What brought them to this location at this hour remains unclear. Was it an after-party, a business meeting, a spontaneous stop after a studio session? The police report doesn't specify, but surveillance cameras captured what happened next with cold precision. The atmosphere inside the vehicle had already soured. According to Key Vhani's later statement, an argument had ignited over something seemingly trivial. She asked the driver to open the trunk. This simple request somehow escalated into heated words exchanged in the confined space of the luxury sedan. Witnesses in nearby establishments noticed the Lexus stop abruptly. The car's interior light illuminated three silhouettes engaged in animated conversation. A couple walking past reported hearing raised voices, though they couldn't make out specific words. You could feel the tension even from outside the car, one witness later told investigators. Something was definitely wrong. The security footage shows Key Vhani exiting first, moving toward the vehicle's trunk with purpose. Her body language suggests frustration, shoulders tight, movements sharp. The driver follows immediately, visibly agitated. The manager remains in the passenger seat momentarily before deciding to join the escalating situation. What began as a verbal disagreement was seconds away from physical violence. The driver, standing near the open trunk, continues arguing with Key Vhani. Their faces come closer, fingers pointing, the universal language of accusation. A bouncer from a nearby establishment later told police he considered intervening but hesitated, thinking it was just another couple fighting. This split-second decision to remain a bystander would haunt him after learning what followed. The night air carried the sounds of their argument across the street, drawing attention from late-night pedestrians who began slowing their pace, that instinctive human response to potential conflict, close enough to witness, far enough to avoid involvement. None of these observers could anticipate how quickly words would transform into violence, how a disagreement over a car trunk would escalate to gunfire, or how the next few minutes would permanently alter multiple lives. The security footage shows the precise moment when words became weapons. The driver suddenly lunges forward, grabbing Key Vhani by her shoulders. His fingers dig into her skin as he violently shakes her. What begins as restraint quickly transforms into assault. "He just snapped," recalled a witness who was sketching the Wynwood murals nearby. One second they were arguing, the next he was on her like an animal. Key Vhani attempts to break free, but the driver's grip tightens. The manager, rather than de-escalating the situation, exits the vehicle and approaches the struggling pair. Instead of separating them, he joins the attack. The footage is disturbing in its clarity. Two men against one woman. The manager, significantly larger than Key Vhani, begins throwing punches while the driver holds her in place. They force her to the ground, her body crumpling under their combined strength. Several bystanders later described the shock of witnessing such a one-sided assault. "It wasn't a fair fight, not even close," said one restaurant worker, who stepped outside for a break just as the violence erupted. "She was trying to protect her head while they just kept coming at her." The human brain processes threat in milliseconds. When attacked, our neurological system floods with adrenaline, triggering that primal response, fight, flight, or freeze. For Key Vhani, pinned against concrete by two men, these survival mechanisms kicked into overdrive. A psychology expert who later reviewed the case explained, "When physically overpowered, especially by multiple attackers, victims experience extreme fear. Their perception narrows to immediate survival. Long-term consequences become irrelevant when you believe your life is in danger." The assault lasts approximately 40 seconds, an eternity when every moment brings new pain. The security footage shows Key Vhani's resistance weakening as the blows continue. Her body language shifts from active defense to protection, curling inward to shield vital organs. Then, unexpectedly, the driver pulls the manager away. This wasn't mercy, according to later testimony. He simply wanted to change positions. This momentary break creates a critical opening. Key Vhani scrambles to her feet, disoriented but moving with the desperate energy of someone who sees a single chance to escape. Blood visible on her face, she staggers away from her attackers. Her purse, somehow still clutched in her hand throughout the assault, now becomes the focus of her attention. The camera captures her reaching inside as she creates distance between herself and the men. The manager, apparently unsatisfied with the damage already inflicted, begins following her. His posture is aggressive, shoulders forward, hands still clenched into fists. The driver remains by the car, watching as his partner pursues the injured woman. No one intervenes. No one calls police. The gathered crowd remains frozen in that peculiar urban paralysis, witnesses but not participants in the violence unfolding before them. The security camera captures the moment everything changes. Key Vhani, still backing away from her pursuing manager, reaches into her purse and produces a handgun. The weapon catches the streetlight, a metallic glint that freezes bystanders in place. "I thought it was a phone at first," said one witness. "Then I realized what was happening and just dropped to the ground." The manager stops, momentarily, perhaps registering the sudden shift in power dynamics. According to Key Vhani's later testimony, this is when he shouted the words that would become central to her defense. "I'll kill you with one hit." Whether from rage, fear, or a combination of both, Key Vhani raises the gun. The first shot echoes through Wynwood's narrow streets, bouncing off muraled walls. The manager clutches his torso but remains standing. The second shot follows quickly, then a third. The manager staggers backward, his expression transitioning from aggression to disbelief. Blood spreads across his shirt as he turns, attempting to flee. Key Vhani advances, the roles now dramatically reversed, hunter becoming hunted, aggressor becoming victim. As the manager collapses in the street, Key Vhani continues firing. The security footage shows her approaching his fallen form, discharging additional rounds into his body. Forensic reports would later confirm 5 entry wounds. "She wasn't just shooting to stop him," noted one detective assigned to the case. "She was shooting to eliminate any possibility he would get back up." Before you continue watching this breakdown of events, take a moment to hit the like button if you believe in examining all sides of complex cases. Your engagement helps us bring these important stories to light. Are you watching from a state with stand your ground laws? Let us know in the comments below. Meanwhile, the driver witnesses his partner fall and makes a split-second decision. He jumps back into the white Lexus, engine roaring to life. Rather than fleeing immediately, he aims the vehicle directly at Key Vhani. The impact is violent, her body thrown several feet by the collision. The Lexus speeds away, tires screeching against asphalt, leaving 2 bodies in the street, one motionless manager and one injured rapper. Remarkably, despite being struck by the vehicle, Key Vhani remains conscious. Security footage shows her attempting to stand, then collapsing back to the pavement. The gun falls from her hand, skittering across concrete. By now, multiple bystanders have called 911. The operator's log notes 7 separate calls within a 2-minute span, each describing fragments of the chaotic scene. Shooting in Wynwood. Woman hit by car. Man down in the street bleeding. The first police cruiser arrives 4 minutes after the initial gunshot. Officers find a scene that appears straightforward at first glance: a shooting victim, a gun, and an injured shooter. But as with most violent encounters, the truth contains layers of complexity that simple narratives fail to capture. Was this calculated murder or desperate self-defense? The answer would depend on perspectives, legal interpretations, and 12 seconds of security footage that would be replayed countless times in the investigation to follow. The courtroom fell silent as Key Vhani appeared for her first hearing. Her face still bore the marks of assault, yellowing bruises contrasting sharply with the orange jumpsuit. The judge reviewed the charges: second-degree murder with a weapon, carrying a potential sentence of life imprisonment. At the center of her defense strategy stood Florida's controversial Stand Your Ground law, enacted in 2005. Unlike traditional self-defense statutes that require a person to retreat if possible, this law permits the use of deadly force when facing an imminent threat, with no duty to back down. This law fundamentally changed how self-defense cases are handled in Florida, explained legal analyst Maria Hernandez. Before Stand Your Ground, Key Vhani would have needed to prove she had no escape route. Now, the question becomes whether she reasonably feared for her life in that moment. The prosecution built their case around 3 key arguments. First, they highlighted that the physical assault had temporarily stopped when the driver pulled the manager away. Second, they pointed to Key Vhani's decision to continue firing after the manager had fallen. Finally, they questioned whether her fear was reasonable once she had created distance between herself and her attacker. The state doesn't dispute that Ms. Hicks was assaulted, the prosecutor stated during preliminary hearings, but the surveillance footage clearly shows the defendant pursuing the victim and continuing to fire after he no longer posed an immediate threat. Key Vhani's public defender countered with a frame-by-frame analysis of the security footage. He emphasized the size difference between his client and her manager, the threats allegedly made, and the psychological impact of being attacked by two men simultaneously. "My client had just been beaten by two men. She was disoriented, injured, and terrified," the defender argued. When her manager continued pursuing her while threatening to kill her with one hit, she made a split-second decision to protect herself. The defense also introduced evidence of the manager's history of aggressive behavior, including testimony from other artists who had worked with him. These witnesses described incidents of intimidation and verbal abuse, painting a picture of a man who used fear as a management tactic. Medical experts testified about acute stress response, how trauma affects decision-making during life-threatening situations. One neuropsychologist explained that victims of violent assault often experience time distortion and heightened threat perception, making it difficult to determine when danger has truly passed. The bail hearing became a battleground for these competing narratives. Prosecutors requested Key Vhani be held without bail, arguing she posed a flight risk and danger to the community. The defense countered that she had no prior criminal record and deep ties to the Miami area. After considering both arguments, the judge set bail at $50,000, 0 cents, with strict conditions: house arrest, electronic monitoring, and surrender of her passport. The decision sparked immediate reaction in the courtroom: relief from Key Vhani's supporters, outrage from the manager's family. As she posted bail and returned home to await trial, the legal questions remained unresolved. Where exactly is the line between justified self-defense and excessive force? Does Florida's Stand Your Ground law protect someone who continues shooting after the initial threat is neutralized? And perhaps most importantly, how does a jury evaluate fear, that subjective, internal experience that drove Key Vhani's actions on that fateful night? This case will test the boundaries of stand your ground in ways few others have, noted one legal scholar. It forces us to consider not just the moment a trigger is pulled, but the complex human emotions that precede and follow that decision. As footage of the shooting circulated online, the court of public opinion rendered its own verdicts. The video, grainy but unmistakable, became the most viewed content of Key Vhani's career, far surpassing any of her music videos. Comment sections transformed into battlegrounds where strangers debated justice, self-defense, and accountability. The reactions split along predictable lines, observed social media analyst Devin Williams. Some viewers focused exclusively on the assault she endured, while others couldn't see past her decision to continue shooting after he fell. Few engaged with the full complexity of the situation. On TikTok, users created side-by-side analyses of the security footage, highlighting different moments to support their interpretations. Some slowed down the manager's pursuit, emphasizing his threatening posture. Others focused on Key Vhani's advance toward his fallen body, questioning whether fear could explain those final shots. Before we continue, I'm curious. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt physically threatened? What would you have done in Key Vhani's position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters in this conversation. The music industry's response revealed its own fault lines. Several prominent female artists spoke out in support of Key Vhani, contextualizing the incident within broader patterns of power abuse in the entertainment world. "This isn't just about one night in Miami," stated a platinum-selling rapper during a radio interview. "It's about an industry where young artists, especially women, are vulnerable to exploitation and abuse from the very people supposed to protect their interests." Others in the industry distanced themselves, concerned about potential backlash. Record labels that had previously expressed interest in Key Vhani's music quietly withdrew offers. Scheduled performances were canceled. The promising career she had built began to crumble under the weight of pending charges. The manager's family launched their own campaign for justice, humanizing the man, largely defined by his final moments. They shared photos of him with his children, stories of his generosity, and his journey in the music business. Their pain, raw and visible during press conferences, added another emotional dimension to the public discourse. He wasn't perfect, his sister acknowledged through tears, but he deserved his day in court if he did something wrong, not to be gunned down in the street. Local community organizations used the case to highlight broader issues. Anti-violence advocates pointed to the bystanders who watched the assault without intervening. Women's rights groups questioned whether a male artist would face the same scrutiny for defending himself. Gun rights activists and opponents both claimed the case supported their positions on armed self-defense. A poll conducted by a Miami news station revealed the community's division. 48% believed Key Vhani acted in legitimate self-defense. 37% thought she committed murder, and 15% remained undecided. These numbers fluctuated as new details emerged, demonstrating how public opinion shifts with each new piece of information. Perhaps most telling were the conversations happening in barbershops, cafes, and living rooms across Miami, places where legal technicalities gave way to fundamental questions about survival, power, and justice. When does a victim become a perpetrator? How much force is too much when facing a threat? And who gets to decide when danger has truly passed? As Key Vhani awaited trial under house arrest, these questions remained unanswered, leaving both her fate and the broader implications of her case hanging in the balance. The case of Key Vhani illuminates the razor-thin line between victim and perpetrator, a boundary that can blur in mere seconds when fear, violence, and survival instincts collide. As her trial date approaches, the outcome remains uncertain, but the lessons are already emerging. First, this case exposes the power imbalances endemic to the music industry. Young artists, particularly women, often find themselves dependent on managers and producers who control access to opportunities. This dependency creates conditions where exploitation can flourish and disagreements can escalate beyond professional boundaries. The music business operates on relationships, but those relationships need clear boundaries, notes industry consultant Alicia Torres. Artists should never be in positions where they fear the very people meant to advocate for them. Second, the incident highlights how quickly conflict can escalate beyond the point of no return. What began as an argument over opening a car trunk transformed into assault and ended in death, all within minutes. This rapid escalation left no time for cooler heads to prevail, no opportunity for mediation or de-escalation. The security footage from that night serves as a stark reminder that violence rarely solves problems. It creates new ones. Key Vhani entered her car that evening as a rising artist with a promising future. She left it as a defendant facing life imprisonment. Her manager arrived as a music industry professional and departed as a homicide victim. No one won. Perhaps most importantly, this case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about self-defense laws and their application. Florida's Stand Your Ground statute eliminates the duty to retreat, but it doesn't provide clear guidelines on when threat mitigation becomes excessive force. This ambiguity leaves juries to make subjective judgments about reasonable fear, an internal state they can never truly know. The law asks impossible questions, explains criminal justice professor James Wilson. How can we objectively measure another person's fear? How do we determine when that fear should subside? These are psychological states, not mathematical equations. For artists navigating the entertainment industry, Key Vhani's story offers practical lessons. Bring trusted allies to meetings. Maintain professional boundaries with management, document concerning behavior, and prioritize personal safety over career advancement. No opportunity is worth risking your life or freedom. For the rest of us, this case reminds us that conflict resolution skills aren't abstract concepts. They're essential tools for navigating a complex world. The ability to de-escalate tension, recognize warning signs, and remove ourselves from volatile situations can prevent tragedies before they unfold. If you've found value in this analysis, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Malice. Your support allows us to continue examining cases that challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of justice. What do you think? Was Key Vhani justified in her actions, or did she cross the line from self-defense to revenge? Share your perspective in the comments below. This conversation matters, and your voice deserves to be heard. Next week, we'll examine another case that tests the boundaries between right and wrong, victim and perpetrator, justice and injustice. Until then, stay safe and remember that the most important crime to prevent is the one that hasn't happened yet.